could have been one of Elizabeth Connolly's daughters. Her parents were elementary school teachers back in Childress. That afternoon, I got more bad news. The worst kind. A fashion designer named Audrey Meek had been abducted from the King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania. Her 2 young children had witnessed the kidnapping. That piece of information stunned me. The children had told the police that the abductors were a man and a woman. I started to get ready to travel to Pennsylvania. I called Nana, and she was supportive for a change. Then I got a message from Nooney's office. I wasn't going to Pennsylvania. I was expected at my classes. The decision had obviously come from the top, and I didn't understand what was happening. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. Maybe. All of this was a test. Chapter 27. Do you know what they say about you, Dr. Cross? That you're close to psychic, very imaginative, maybe even gifted. You can think like a killer. Those were Monty Donnelly's words to me that very morning. If that was true, why had I been taken off the case? I went to my classes in the afternoon, but I was distracted, maybe angry. I suffered a little angst. What was I doing in the FBI? What was I becoming? I didn't want to fight the system in Quantico, but I'd been put in an impossible position. The next morning I had to be ready for my classes again. Law, white-collar crime, civil rights violations, firearms practice. I was sure that I'd find civil rights violations interesting, but a couple of missing women named Elizabeth Connolly and Audrey Meek were out there somewhere. Maybe one or both of them was still alive. Maybe I could help find them. If I was so goddamn gifted. I was finishing breakfast with Nana and Rosie the cat at the kitchen table when I heard the morning paper plop on the front porch. Sit, you eat, I'll get it, I told Nana as I pushed my chair away from the table. No argument from this corner, Nana said, and sipped her tea with great little old lady aplomb. I have to conserve myself, you know. Right. Nana was still cleaning every square inch of the house, inside and out, and cooking most of the meals. A couple of weeks ago, I'd caught her hanging on to an extension ladder, cleaning out the gutters on the roof. It's not a problem, she hollered down to me. My balance is excellent, and I'm light as a parachute. Come again? The Washington Post hadn't actually reached the porch. It lay open halfway up the sidewalk. I didn't even have to stoop to read the front page. Oh, hell, I said. Damn it. This wasn't good. It was awful, actually. I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. The headline was a shocker. Abductions of 2 women may be connected. Worst of all, the rest of the story contained very specific details that only a few people in the FBI knew. Unfortunately, I was one of them. Key was the story told about a couple, a man and a woman, who had been seen at the most recent kidnapping in Pennsylvania. I felt sick in the pit of my stomach. The eyewitness account given by Audrey Meek's children was information that we hadn't wanted released to the press. Somebody had leaked the story to the Post. Somebody had also connected the dots for them. Other than maybe Bob Woodward, nobody at the newspaper could have done it by themselves. They weren't that smart. Who had leaked information to the Post? Why? It didn't make sense. Was somebody trying to sabotage the investigation? Who? Chapter 28. I didn't walk Janny and Damon to school Monday morning. I sat out on the sun porch with the cat and played the piano. Mozart, Brahms. I had the guilty thought that I should have gotten up earlier and helped out at St. Anthony's Soup Kitchen. I usually pitch in a couple mornings a week, often on Sundays. My church. Traffic was terrible that morning, and the frustrating drive down to Quantico took me almost an hour and a half. I imagined SSA Nooney standing at the front gates, waiting impatiently for me to arrive. At least the drive gave me time to think over my current situation. I decided the best course of action, for now anyway, was to go to my classes, keep my head down. If Director Burns wanted me on White Girl, he'd get word to me. If not, then fine. That morning, the class centered on what the Bureau called a practical application exercise. We had to investigate a fictitious bank robbery in Hogan's Alley, including interviews with witnesses and tellers. The instructor was another very competent SSA named Marilyn May. About half an hour into the exercise, Agent May notified the class of a fictitious automobile accident about a mile from the bank. We proceeded as a group to investigate the accident and to see if it had any connection to the bank robbery. I was being conscientious, but I'd been involved in actual investigations like this for the past dozen years, and it was hard for me to take it too seriously, especially since some of my classmates conducted interviews according to the instructional manual. I thought maybe they'd watched cop shows on television too often. Agent May seemed amused at times herself. As I stood around the accident scene with a new buddy who had been a captain in the Army before going into the Bureau, I heard my name spoken. I turned to see Nooney's administrative assistant. "Senior Agent Nooney wants to see you in his office," he said. "Oh, Christ, what now? This guy is nuts," I was thinking as I walked quickly to administration. I hurried upstairs to where Nooney was waiting. "Shut the door, please," he said. He was seated behind a scarred oak desk, looking as if someone close to him had died. I was getting hot under the collar. "I'm in the middle of an exercise." "I know what you're doing. I wrote the program and the schedule," he said. "I want to talk to you about the front page of today's Washington Post," he went on. "You see it?" I saw it. "I spoke to your former chief of detectives this morning. He told me that you've used the Post before. He said you have friends there." I tried hard not to roll my eyes. "I used to have a good friend at the Post. He was murdered. I don't have friends there anymore. Why would I leak information about the abductions? What would I gain?" Nooney pointed a rigid finger my way. He raised his voice. "I know how you work, and I know what you're after. You don't want to be part of a team, or to be controlled or influenced in any way. Well, it's not going to happen that way. We don't believe in golden boys or special situations. We don't think that you're more imaginative or creative than anyone else in your class. So get back to your exercise, Dr. Cross. And wise up." Without saying another word, I left the office, fuming. I returned to the fake accident scene, which Agent Marilyn May soon neatly connected to the fake robbery that had been staged in Hogan's Alley. Some program that Nooney had written. I could have done a better one in my sleep. And yeah, now I was mad. I just didn't know who I was supposed to be mad at. I didn't know how to play this game. But I wanted to win. Chapter 29.
Another purchase had been made, a large one. On Saturday night, the couple had entered a bar called the Halyard on the water in Newport, Rhode Island. The Halyard was different from most of the gay clubs in Newport's so-called Pink District. There was the occasional glimpse of a badass boot or spike-studded wristband, but most of the men who frequented the place sported tousled hairdos and boating dress, and the ever-popular Croaky sunglasses. The DJ had just selected a Strokes tune, and several couples were dancing the night away. The couple fit in, which is to say that they didn't stand out. Slava wore a baby blue t-shirt and Dockers, and had gelled his longish black hair. Zoya had on a raffish sailing cap, and had made herself up to look like a pretty young man. She had succeeded beyond her own expectations, for she had already been hit on. She and Slava were looking for a certain physical type, and they had found a promising prospect soon after they had arrived. His name, they would learn later, was Benjamin Coffey, and he was a senior at Providence College. Benjamin had first become aware that he was gay while serving as an altar boy at St. Thomas's in Barrington, Rhode Island. No priest had ever touched or abused him while he was there, or even come on to him, but he had discovered a like-minded altar server, and they became lovers when they were both 14. The two had continued to meet through high school, but then Benjamin had moved on. He was still keeping his sex life a secret at Providence College, but he could be himself in the Pink District. The couple watched the very handsome boy as he chatted up a 30-something bartender whose toned muscles were set off by the track lighting over his head. "The boy could be on the cover of GQ," said Slava. "He's the one." A strapping man in his 50s approached the bar. Close behind him were 4 younger men and a woman. Everyone in the group was wearing white ducks and blue Lacoste shirts. The bartender turned away from Benjamin and shook hands with the older man, who then introduced his companions. "David Scala, crew. Henry Galperin, crew. Bill Atanzi, crew. Sam Hughes, cook. Nora Hamrin, crew." "And this," said the bartender, "is Ben." It's Benjamin," the boy corrected and smiled brilliantly. Zoya snuck a look at Slava, and the two of them couldn't help grinning at the skit. "The boy is just what we want," she said. "He's like a cleaned-up version of Brad Pitt." He was definitely the physical type that the client had specified. Slender, blonde, boyish, probably still a teenager, luscious red lips, intelligent-looking. That was a must. Intelligence. And the buyer wanted no part of chickens, young boys who sold themselves on the street. 10 minutes or so passed. Then the couple followed Benjamin to the bathroom, which was white on white and sparkling clean. Illustrations of nautical knots had been drawn on the wall. There was a table elaborately set with colognes, mouthwashes, and a teak box filled with amyl nitrite poppers. Benjamin headed into one of the stalls, and the couple pushed in after him. It was a tight squeeze. He turned when he felt a hard shove. "Taken," he said. "I'm in here. Jesus. Are you too stoned? Give me a break." "Arm or leg," said Slava, and laughed at his own joke. They forced him to his knees. "Hey! Hey!" he called out in alarm. "Somebody help me! Somebody!" A gauzy cloth was pressed tightly against his nose and mouth, and he lost consciousness. Then the couple lifted Benjamin up, and supporting him on either side, carried him from the bathroom as if they were buddies helping someone who'd passed out. They took him out a back door to a parking lot filled with convertibles and SUVs. The couple didn't care if they were seen, but they were careful not to hurt the boy. No bruises. He was worth a lot of money. Somebody wanted him badly. Another purchase.
Chapter 30.
The buyer's name was Mr. Potter. It was the code name he used when he wanted to make a purchase from Sterling, when he and the seller communicated for any reason. Potter was very happy with Benjamin, and he'd told this to the couple when they dropped the package at his farm in Webster, New Hampshire. Population of a little more than 1,400, a place where no one bothered you. Ever. The farmhouse he owned there was partially restored, with white antique wood shingling, 2 stories, a new roof. About 100 yards behind it sat a red barn, the guest house. This was where Benjamin would be kept, where the others before him had been stored as well. The house and barn were surrounded by more than 60 acres of woods and farmland that had belonged to Potter's family and now were his. He didn't live on the farm, but in Hanover, about 50 miles away, where he toiled as an assistant professor of English at Dartmouth. God, he couldn't take his eyes off Benjamin. Of course, the boy couldn't see him, couldn't speak, not yet. He was blindfolded and gagged, and his hands and legs were bound by police handcuffs. Other than that, Benjamin wore nothing but a sliver of silver thong, which looked precious on him. The sight of the very handsome young man took Potter's breath away for the 3rd or 4th or 10th time since he'd taken possession of him. The maddening thing about teaching at Dartmouth these past 5 years was that you could watch, but you could not touch the boys who went there. It was frustrating beyond belief to be that close to his heart's desire, but now it almost seemed worth it. Benjamin was his reward. for waiting, for being good.